Hello, friends, and welcome. Today's story is quite long, so why don't you get something to drink, find yourself a blanket maybe, and just lean back while I tell you a story. Okay? Good. So I guess snuggle up. I used to be proud of how little I slept. 5 hours was more than enough. I wore the exhaustions like a medal, drank black coffee like water, and blinked through lectures with pupils like pinholes. My classmates thought I was driven, and I was, in a way a car with cut brakes is driven. It's strange how easily you can make life out of not really living in it. I filled the hours studying, revising, scrolling mindlessly, dragging myself from one deadline to the next. My phone's calendar was a patchwork of blocks. Lectures, group meetings, essays, meal preps, workouts I rarely kept. I measured days by how long I could keep moving. If I stopped, the ache in my chest would bloom too wide, so I kept running from it. In the collective kitchen, I joked about REM cycles and microsleeps while buttering toasts with trembling fingers. Sometimes, I'd look at my hand shaking, like it belonged to someone else. Leah, always bright-eyed, even at 7 a.m., would ask if I was okay, like really okay, and I'd just smile and wave her off. Simon made dark jokes about being zombies. Emily watched us both, tired in a quieter way, her sadness so thick it felt like humidity in the air. The kitchen table was our only real gathering place. Someone was always there, eating cereal with a fork, finishing notes at 2 a.m., doom scrolling in silence. The table itself bore witness to everything. Spilled coffee, whispered arguments, half-finished essays, someone's attempt at baking that ended in disaster. But we never talked about what kept us up at night. We talked about grades and Netflix, and whether anyone had paid the internet bill. We made fun of ourselves for being tired, for being stressed, for not having it together, like that was the punchline. I didn't believe in balance. Balance was for people with less to prove. My bedroom was at the end of the hall, and it had a heater that clanked without ever really warming the place. Most nights, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, waiting to feel heavy enough or light enough to drift. It never happened. The heaviness was always wrong, not fatigue, something else. It started subtly. A coldness in the room despite closed windows. My bedroom heater made its usual half-hearted clanking, but there was always a pocket of still air near the floor. A draft with no source, and the shadow began to stretch oddly. Nothing dramatic, just enough to notice that the corner behind the desk never looked quite the same 2 nights in a row. Sometimes it looked deeper than it should be, and sometimes the desk lamp flickered, even when it wasn't plugged in. Once I found my notebook on the floor, pages splayed open to notes I didn't remember writing. My handwriting, but messier, just single words, over and over. Tired, 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 tired. And then the weight came. It wasn't like the sleep paralysis I'd read about in textbooks. Not exactly. It was like being pressed through the mattress. All the air squeezed from my lungs and nothing left but a hollow ringing in my ears. The pressure was total, around me, inside me. It made my body forget I knew how to move. The first time, I didn't realize anything was wrong until I tried to turn my head and couldn't. My eyes stayed open, pinned to the ceiling. A kind of panic fluttered in my chest, but it couldn't get out. There was no space for it, just wait. And then, out of the corner of my vision, I saw her. She didn't do anything. She just was. Sitting on me, or beside me, or inside the pressure itself. Her presence blurred the edges of things, like heat rising from pavement. Her hair was long and heavy looking, like it hadn't dried properly in weeks. Her face wasn't hidden, but it wasn't fixed either. More like a feeling you couldn't quite name. Her eyes were hollow, not black, not dead, just tired, deep tired. The kind of tired that doesn't go away with rest. I tried to scream, or move, or close my eyes. Nothing happened. The minutes stretched, warped, bent around the weight in my chest, and then, just as suddenly, it was over. I could move again. I lay there, sweating, staring at the empty corner where she'd been. I waited for fear, but what I felt most was exhaustion. I didn't speak of it. I'm not religious. I believe in neurotransmitters and trauma loops, in repressed memories and prefrontal cortex overload. We discussed all of it in class, with diagrams and case studies, theories for every haunting, hallucinations, stress responses, sleep deprivation, the mind playing tricks. Still, part of me knew better, or at least part of me wondered. After the third night in a row, I started recording my sleep. Phone camera, sound on, screen dimmed, angle adjusted to cover the bed and half the room. I told myself it was for a personal case study, some future thesis appendix. Most mornings there was nothing. Rustling, breathing, an occasional mumble. Sometimes I'd catch myself on tape muttering fragmented sentences. Not now, or please, or just soft animal noises that didn't sound like me. But once, just once, I saw it. The screen darkened for 30 seconds, as if someone stood between the lens and the lamplight. And then my breath quickened, and then nothing. I watched the clip over and over, searching for details, some clue to tell me it was just a trick of the light. There was nothing, only the darkness, my own uneven breathing, and the pressure I remembered so well. I deleted the clip after a week. I told myself it was for my own good, and I didn't tell my roommates. There's a fragile piece in student collectives that depends heavily on pretending no one is falling apart. Leah wouldn't have believed me. Simon would have turned it into some dumb joke. Emily might have, maybe understood, but she was already drowning in her own heartbreaks. She wore her grief like perfume, heavy, inescapable, and oddly personal. Instead, I started talking to her. Not during the day, not in the mirror, I'm not that far gone. Just at night, during the paralysis. It started small. Why are you here? No answer. Are you real? Still nothing. But one night, when the pressure came and my fingers twitched with frustration, I whispered, "It's not working, you know." And she said, "I know." Her voice wasn't ghostly. It was dry, flat, not cruel, not kind, like she'd been answering the same question for centuries and had stopped hoping anyone would understand the answers. "You're the first one I've ever talked to," I said. "You're not the first to think that," she said. We didn't talk every night. Some nights she just sat. Once I watched her comb her fingers through her tangled hair for what felt like an hour. The motion was methodical, almost angry, like she was trying to pull something out that wouldn't come. Once she wept. No sobs, just silent tears rolling down her cheeks as she sat on my chest, pinning me to the mattress, her weight as much inside me as on me. Her name wasn't given as much as implied. "Mara?" I said once, testing the word like it might break my teeth. She didn't correct me. I asked her what she was. She shrugged. The movement was small, tired, as if the question itself was heavier than she could lift. "Why do you come?" I asked. She looked at me, long and level, her eyes dark with something bottomless. "You don't feel your feelings," she said. "I do," I said, defensive. "I analyze them, I talk about them, I know what they are." "You analyze them, label them. That's not the same," she said. Her response got me thinking, chewing the inside of my cheek, fighting the urge to list the DSM diagnosis I could name by heart. The irony wasn't lost on me. Psychology student, haunted by the symptoms she thought she could outthink. I asked if I was broken. "No more than usual." "Are you here to help?" "No, I'm here because you won't." She wasn't unkind, just efficient, like a janitor sweeping up someone else's mess. No bitterness, just fatigue. She once said, "I used to visit the grieving, the haunted, people who lost children or killed to survive. Now I visit the overworked, the numbed, the dissociated. I visit you." She nodded towards my desk, where my laptop glowed with an open tab of Thesis Draft 3, still blank at 3:42 a.m. "You all bury everything under the surface, like trash under a rug. I'm the wrinkle." "Why do you keep doing it?" I asked. She blinked, slow, Do you think you're the only one who's tired? After that, I stopped using the lamp. I wanted to see her more clearly. It didn't help, but the weight was less terrifying, familiar even. Some nights, she didn't come. Those nights were worse. I'd lie in bed waiting, the absence itself a kind of pressure. I'd stare at the ceiling, waiting for the cold, the heaviness. When it didn't come, I found myself gasping for breath, arms curled tight around myself, heart rattling in my chest. The others started to notice. "You're quiet lately," Leah said one morning, pouring cereal into her coffee mug. "Good quiet," Simon added. "Less murder vibes." I snorted, stabbing at the crumbs on the table with my finger. "I'm just processing." "Through what?" Emily asked. I almost said conversations, but stopped. Instead, I said dreams. Emily nodded, almost sad looking. "I don't dream at all anymore." She said it like a confession. Her eyes met mine for a second, and I wondered if she felt it too. Some flavor of it, maybe. Maybe not Mara herself, but the same weight. But we didn't talk more about it. We never did. After breakfast, I walked to campus. It was raining, the kind of steady, chilly drizzle that soaks through everything. I watched people hurry past, heads down, eyes glazed over. In lectures, I watched my classmates. Half of them hunched over laptops, scrolling, checking notifications, tapping the legs under the table. Everyone looked tired. Everyone was pretending not to be. I wondered how many of us knew Mara. The night stretched. The paralysis visit changed. Sometimes, Mara sat in the corner watching me, her face unreadable. Sometimes, she traced patterns in the air, like she was drawing maps only she could see. And one night, I tried to follow her gaze and saw shapes in the shadows, twisted, familiar, shifting with my thoughts. Other nights, she combed her hair, fingers shaking, tugging at knots that never came loose. "You look tired," I told her once. She huffed and laughed. "You think you invented it?" she said. "Maybe I perfected it," I answered. She almost smiled, or maybe I imagined it. There were nights when the paralysis faded, and I found myself able to ask her things. She never gave straight answers. I asked where she went during the day. "Wherever I'm needed," she said. One night, I asked her what would happen if I didn't need her visits anymore. She paused, her mouth twisting as if she tasted something bitter. "Someone else would." "Do you ever rest?" I asked. She stared at the wall, picking at the hem of her dress, gray, shapeless, heavy-looking. "You're very nosy," she said. "No, not for long." "Why do you keep coming?" She stared at me for a long moment, her expression tired, almost exasperated, and a tiny bit annoyed. "If you showed up for yourselves, then maybe I wouldn't have to," she said. The semester crawled by. Exams approached, the days blurring into each other. Our collective became quieter, each of us retreating further into our own heads. The kitchen felt colder, the lights harsher. One night, I found Emily crying softly at the table, her face in her hands. I made tea and left it by her elbow. Neither of us speaking. Mara's visits grew heavier. She seemed less distinct, more faded, as if she was made from the same exhaustion that filled the apartment. I started to wonder if she was multiplying, if every tired, numb person grew into their own Mara. Each was spawning a shadow, a pressure, a haunting of her own design. One night, during the paralysis, I asked, "Are there more like you?" She was combing her hair, slow and deliberate, tugging through knots. She didn't look at me. "There are as many as needed." "And how many is that?" I asked. She was silent for so long I thought she wouldn't answer. "Too many." She let the hair fall from her fingers, eyes closing. "It's different now. It used to be a name, a story, a grief. Now it's everyone, all the time. The stories are thinner, the names blur. No one wants to feel it. So I come." I felt something ache inside me, a guilt I couldn't define. She opened her eyes, looking at me with a tiredness I recognized as my own. Not every night brought a visit. Sometimes I slept through, waking to sunlight and a sense of almost missing something, like a memory I couldn't catch. Sometimes I woke with the pressure still echoing in my chest, but without panic. It felt like a bruise, tender but familiar. I started journaling, just one sentence each night. Some nights it said, "She wasn't here." Other nights, "Neither was I." And one night, "She never came, but I found myself." One night, the paralysis didn't come, but I dreamt I was sitting on my own chest. Not literally, but somehow real. I was watching myself breathe, watching the way my jaw clenched, the way my arms curled around my stomach, like I was trying to hold something inside. And I thought, maybe that's what she is, a reminder to feel it before it rots. The next morning, I lingered in bed, feeling the weight but not afraid of it. I let myself breathe, deep and slow, counting each inhale like proof that I was still here. One night, Mara came early. I wasn't even in bed. I was at my desk, laptop open to a blank document, hands hovering above the keys. She was already there, perched on the edge of my bed, her posture less heavy than usual. She watched me, head tilted, as if studying me. "You never come like this," I said. She looked up, her eyes rimmed with weariness. "You've never been like this," she said. We talked, not long, but it stayed with me. I asked, "Do you ever leave for good?" "I'm not the one who decides." "But you're tired." She was quiet for a long time, fingers tangled in her hair. "I was tired before you were born." She really looked at me, fully. "But at least you're trying," she said. Then she stood and left. That was the last time I saw her, for a while. The days after felt like a peeled sunburn. Everything too sensitive, sound too sharp, light too bright. But I also felt clearer, not healed, not fixed, just more able to sit still, to sit with myself. I slept, not better, but I slept. Sometimes I woke with the pressure still echoing in my chest, but without panic. Sometimes I missed her. Other nights, I felt the ache and let it be, didn't reach my phone or the light, and let the feeling pass through, raw and unfiltered, like letting a wound air out. Life in the collective went on. Emily and I started walking together to class some mornings. Not talking much, just moving side by side through the cold. Simon dyed his hair blue, then green, then shaved it all off. Leah started going to yoga, brought home sage, burned it in the kitchen until Simon complained about the smell. Nobody talked about their dreams. The weight in my chest became something I recognized, not as an enemy, but as a signal. Sometimes, in the quiet hours, I would sit at my desk and try to write, not about Mara, exactly, but about everything she'd left in her wake. I tried to feel the things I'd buried. I tried not to look away. I started journaling again, just one sentence each night. Some nights, she wasn't here. Other nights, neither was I. And one night I wrote, "I waited for her and found only myself."